me, take your time, take as much time you want. If you want to go somewhere, tell me and we can go wherever you want. Like, give the space to the other person to feel comfortable and walk you through what they want to do. Definitely not give advice like, let's go there, let me take you there, I'll take, because someone out of wanting to help, because when you're seeing someone in distress, obviously you want to help, right? So you want to do everything you can to help. So maybe you start giving advice or you start taking initiatives. That usually for me makes it worse, because I think that now I have to sort of explain that this is not good. So now I have an extra thing to do than just, you know, go through it.
So
So I think that would help me.
I think, like, definitely talk to a medical professional about these suggestions. A couple things that I tried that ended up helping me a bit were, like, there's this one where you can take your arms and kind of cross them across your chest, and then you just tap, alternating on kind of like your shoulders a little bit. So it's just sort of like tap right, tap left with your arms crossed. And that helped a little bit. I think for whatever reason, like, it's sending some kind of signal to your brain. I'm not quite sure how that works, but ask your doctor if maybe something like that would help you. And there are some things, if you know you're someone who has panic attacks, there are some uh, like sublingual drops or pills that help to calm you. But again, like, you need to check, is that something that your medical professional would advise or suggest, because your body might not work with those like someone else's would. But my point with suggesting that is just to find out what you and your doctor would think. Like, there are things that can help you, and they don't necessarily need to be full on medications. And that's why I'm suggesting that, because like Katerina, I'm kind of somebody that avoids medications if I don't have to take them. I would rather take something that's more natural, but it's nice to know that there are options. And I think just exploring those and figuring out what works for you, I think, can really help. Now, Katerina, one thing you've kind of mentioned here a couple times is, like, once you, well, at first, there's that fear of, if I tell anybody about this, they're going to think I'm weak. They're going to think I'm less than, right? So what have you found? Because you mentioned you've told some friends and you opened up, you were vulnerable to them about it, but what did you find were their reactions once you did start telling people?
So I think it was not many years ago. So it was like maybe 8 years ago or 7 years ago or 6 years ago that I was struggling the most. And I think even in the last 6 years and even now, I think generally we are more open about mental health in the way I perceive it, like in television series or in movies or in music or in culture in general. I see more people talking about mental health and bringing it up front. And I always notice now that in movies, it's very usual that people talk about their therapists and they're doing therapy, or or famous people that we know talk about their therapists, right? So now I think it's more acceptable and more normal. Everybody has a therapist now, and it's more normal to speak about that and accept it, etc. And COVID also helped, I think, with that. So maybe I think that when I started sharing it with friends, which was like, say, 8 years ago, they were not so accustomed with speaking up about these things or understanding these things. So I think my friends were not very educated about it, and so some of my friends did not react very well, and they were like telling me, "Come on, relax, go out and enjoy life. Don't be like that. Why are you always so sad?" So they were not helpful, right? I don't blame them, because I understand that they were not educated about it, and they were just wanting me to be better. They were like angry that I was not feeling well. Like, why are you like that? Come on, we're having a good time. Some other friends, like my roommate, for example, in London, and another close friend of mine, because I think they were more educated on this, they were treating me very differently. They were more open about it, more understanding, and they were open to talk with me about it. Like, tell me what you're feeling, and it's okay, So I had two types of reactions, and I think both of these reactions relied on the education of these people on mental health. Because now my friends who were not that good towards me back then, years afterwards, like the past couple of years, they are having panic attacks as well. So now I know that they understand it.
I think you said something really important there that I've actually, like, when I've had this conversation with other friends, they've all said something similar in that, like, you come across people, and I don't know why, sometimes it tends to be the people who are closest to you. And I think because, like what you're saying, they want you so badly to be better and not struggle and not hurt. They want you to be happy. But what people end up saying are things like, just get over it. Like, oh, just move on. Like, go get a job that you like and just get over it, and it'll all go away. And I get their comment. I understand what they're trying to say. There is a certain degree of truth to that. Like, you've got to there has to be a point where you got to take that first step, right? But I also very muchly believe in just feeling those feelings. I think there is value in being sad and being okay with being sad for a bit. Like, you don't want to sit in it forever, of course, but you have those feelings for a reason. And I think it's okay to give yourself permission to experience them and to sit with them and ask, why am I feeling this? Where is it coming from? And trying to get really to the bottom of it. And you may not be able to do that on your own. And that's where I think having that therapist, that counselor, can really help you. But I just want to put that out there, that I don't think being sad is a bad thing. I think it does have value, and it's okay to want to put on a sad song or watch a sad movie, right? Like, we have emotions for a reason. They're there to serve us. So I don't want people to feel like you can't be sad and you can't feel depressed, because it's okay to sit with those feelings. And sometimes that's what's necessary before you can actually move on and find the happiness that you're looking for.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think you also said it, and I want to stress it, that of course, yeah, our friends tell us, come on, get over it, as you said, get out there, be well. But it's if you're experiencing depression or panic attacks or something that is beyond just having the blues, so it's not that simple of just waking up one day and saying, okay, today I'll be well. You definitely need, as you said, Brooke, you definitely need some help. And this is where maybe some people, in all their goodwill to help, get it wrong, because it's not as simple as snapping out of it. Some people need help, either therapy or medication, to be able to quote snap out of it. It's not simple for everyone. Yes.
A lot of the people who listen to this podcast are going to be software developers, and you're an accomplished software developer yourself. You're also a speaker and many other things that Brooke went over earlier. And so one thing that I'm wondering about is, how has this affected your career as a software engineer? How have you dealt with this at work, and how has it affected your work?
To be honest, I think my work really, really helps, because it's I like what I do, and I have a purpose. So when I feel like I have a purpose that is over and beyond me. I give my whole, mind to it. So everything else gets pushed aside. So I think it's my work really, really helps in that way to like feel that I have this purpose and this goal. So I'm there and I'm working towards it and, focusing and not minding other things, I think.
Now, what about like, you mentioned in London, you were at a point where you weren't really functional. Has that crept it in at all into your work? I know it sounds like overall you've felt, like you said, that purpose, and you've been able to really push through any depression or anxiety. But have there been times when it's crept in at all? And along with that is, at what point do you know that it's time to open up to your employer or maybe a manager or coworkers and let them know that you're dealing with this?
Good question. Actually, so to be honest, until now, I don't think it's really messed up with my work, apart from two exceptions. Back in 2016, when I was not functional for 2 months, I would go to work, but I would go to work for not many hours. And I told my employer that I'm sick, not that I have mental health issues, that I'm sick and I needed to take some time off. So that was back in 2016. Since then, I've worked on it. Luckily, I've worked on it a lot. I don't know now if I was like full blown not well, if I could cope. However, this summer, I was going through a lot of stress because this year I had a pretty tough year and I had committed to a lot of things that were not exactly for myself. They were commitments to other friends or commitments to some other things. So I had taken some time off to do these commitments, and there was a little bit of stress at work, I think in June and in July. So these things started creeping up on me. It wasn't exactly that I was going through exactly a panic attack, but I felt really, really overwhelmed. So I told this to my manager, to Yuri, and I think I did take a mental day off because Norwell has mental days to take off. And I also told, for example, to my manager that no matter what, I'm very stressed, and no matter what, I need to take a good 3 weeks off in August. So I took some unpaid time off in August, and I didn't relax much. But in any case, this is how I dealt with it. I was still struggling. But I felt good that I could talk about it with my manager, and I felt good that I work at a company where it's understandable to have some mental health strugglings like anxiety or anything, because other people potentially may write in Slack, I'm taking a mental day, I'm very stressed. So it's good that I work in an environment where it's okay to speak about this, and it's understandable that you need some time to relax. So this really helped me, that I could be open with it to my manager, and I could say to my manager, you know what, I will need to take these 3 weeks off.
How do you think, because Narwhal, like we've said, is an amazing company. It has great culture, great supportive team members, leaders. Have you ever worked for a company, or if not, if you did work for a company that wasn't so supportive, how do you think you would handle it in that situation where, I can think I've had a job before where opening up a little bit about these kinds of health issues, people start treating you differently. They start looking at you like you're weak. And it's kind of that
Yeah.
fear is realized in a way, oh, I don't want to open up because people are going to see me as weak and less than. And sure enough, like, there are those employers and coworkers that could potentially happen with, unfortunately. But how would you deal with that if that were the case for you?
I know, no, I agree, and I know it's a stigma. And when I wrote my article on Medium, I know that it could be a bit stigmatizing, like, oh, okay, this poor person has struggles. But this is exactly what I was trying to break. I was trying to break